Jeremy Stephens versus Calvin Kattar will take place on the main card of UFC 249, Ferguson versus Gaethje on April the 18th, and I can't wait for this bout. This is going to be one of the fight of the nights for sure. There are too many fights on this card that could be potential fight of the night, so I don't even know if this one's going to be good. It might just blend in with the other wars that we are almost guaranteed on the card, with Ferguson versus Gaethje, Luque versus fucking Price. Like, there's so many great wars. Ngannou versus Rosenstruik, Uriah Hall, Jacare Souza. There's great fights is what I'm trying to say, but Jeremy Stephens versus Calvin Kattar has earned its position on the main card. I am glad that it has. They will open up our main card with a fucking bang. I am sure this will be an amazing fight. Jeremy Stephens tough as they come. Calvin Kattar maybe the next big thing in the featherweight division. Who knows? I think he's going to beat Jeremy Stephens, and I think he's going to beat him in impressive fashion as well. I think he's going to beat him very badly. I think he's going to completely school him and eventually get the finish in the second round. I know a lot of people don't finish Jeremy Stephens, but a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that he cannot be finished. Jeremy Stephens has been finished before in his career twice, you know, in the UFC. He's been finished. It can happen. I know Jeremy Stephens takes these punches well, but to be fair, what power punches has Jeremy Stephens fought recently? He beat Josh Emmett, but then again, Josh Emmett dropped him and rocked him in the first round and had him in all sorts of trouble. A little bit worrying. Doo Ho Choi, is he much of a power puncher? Listen, if you can't drop Cub Swanson, maybe there's a problem. You know, I don't know. Doo Ho Choi's got some power, but Gilbert Melendez. I don't know about some of these wins, guys. Do you know what I mean? Because Doo Ho Choi came back and lost to Charles fucking Jourdain. Also lost to Cub Swanson. Those guys are no longer in the mix right now. These wins that Jeremy Stephens has, he's only kept relevant, by the fact that he's beaten Josh Emmett. That's the only reason he is relevant right now in the division, is because he holds that win over Josh Emmett. If he didn't, he would sink probably out of the rankings altogether. He's lost to Renato Moicano, he's lost to Frankie Edgar, Max Holloway, Jose Aldo, Zabit Magomedsharipov, Yair Rodriguez. There seems to be a theme here. The upper levels of the featherweight division seem to be enough to beat Jeremy Stephens. I am willing to bet on Calvin Kattar to get the job done. The Boston finisher, and I think he's going to do it in the most impressive fashion yet, for sure. I really do. I love this fight, by the way. Jeremy Stephens is dangerous, and he poses all kind of threats. He always has that power, but does he anymore? Another big thing I want to talk, because Stephens seems to be landing that bomb on a lot of guys recently, and it doesn't seem to be having the same effect that it used to. I'm not saying USADA's involved. I'm not, because Stephens is one of the few guys whose body didn't seem to change whatsoever since USADA came into play. However, the power's not quite there anymore. Don't get me wrong, he could go out there and KO Calvin Kattar, but Calvin Kattar's got a great chin. He's got great boxing, which means that even if he didn't have a great chin, he'd know how to take a punch well. That's something that Tony Ferguson shows us very well. He's so good at his head movement, even though his chin's up in the air sometimes, he has enough awareness to move with shots. Tony Ferguson's not got the best chin in the world. He gets dropped and rocked quite often, but he's so good at rocking with them. He's 36, 35. He's getting up there in age. He's had his wars. But his head movement is so good and so crisp at times when the war is coming towards him. When Pettis is throwing those bombs. You can see it. Like, he doesn't freeze up. When Pettis landed that second right hand after dropping him the first time, Ferguson immediately, with the momentum of the punch, turned himself into a front roll. With the momentum of the punch. You know, oh, you punched me, I'm going to turn this head into a front roll. And he went for a little spin. It was madness. And that's what Calvin Kattar is very good at. He's very crisp in his boxing. He trains at a great gym with guys like Rob Font, who right now is a top 10 bantamweight. I like it, man. I really do. I love this matchup for Calvin Kattar. I think he can do a lot. I think recently he's addressed a little bit of a problem that he once had with leg kicks that Renato Moicano kind of exposed in him. Jeremy Stephens could look to go to that, but also, when he does go to that, he's going to have to worry about the hands of Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar sets traps. And this was one thing that I saw in the Ricardo Lamas fight. He was setting up that 1-2 for a while. I think someone's actually done a film breakdown of Kattar landing that punch. I think it was DC, right after the fight happened. You can see the shuffling of the feet of Calvin Kattar when he lands the jab on someone, shifting himself into position for the right hand. It's fucking amazing boxing. I like Calvin Kattar. I thought he had a great performance against Zabit Magomedsharipov. I thought he would have 100% have destroyed Zabit if it was a 5-round main event, which it should have been. But Zabit took it for 3 rounds because, you know, Zabit can't go longer than 3 rounds, and if he did, he'd lose to literally everyone he's ever fought that he hasn't finished. Period. Not joking. Stevens would have beaten him. You know, tell me I'm wrong. Calvin Kattar would have beaten him. 5 rounds, main events. They should be 5 rounds, but Zabit doesn't want to go 5 rounds. It's all good though. I think Calvin Kattar's a beast. And I think he's going to beat Jeremy Stephens. I do. I think he's improving more between each fight. There's nothing that Jeremy Stephens is going to do to reinvent himself. Stephens' only chance is to land the KO blow. I don't see that happening with a guy like Calvin Kattar, who's got the chin that he does. Doesn't seem to get rocked often whatsoever. And when he does get into a little bit of a firefight, stays technical. Something that happened in the Shane Burgos contest. They were going back and forth the entire fight. Calvin Kattar was sort of edging some moments. Shane Burgos was edging some others. There was a moment where both of them were like, in the first round, let's just swing. And Shane Burgos was swinging. And Calvin Kattar was swinging back. But Calvin Kattar was swinging in technique, which I like about this fight with Jeremy Stephens. A lot of guys, when they fight Stephens, like Josh Emmett, get used to landing on him, and they start entering into this brawl that they don't want any part with Jeremy Stephens. They don't. Josh Emmett entered into a brawl with Jeremy Stephens, was winging big shots, left himself vulnerable and open. Calvin Kattar does not leave himself vulnerable when he swings those heavy blows. He stays in form, leaving less opportunity for Jeremy Stephens to land that KO blow that seems to be missing every single time he fights. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, kind of a 4-fight losing streak, but it was a no contest with Yair Rodriguez. It's not really a 4-fight losing streak, I guess. 3-fight losing streak, but he hasn't won in 4 fights. I look at his record, and to me, a lot of people seem to say this about Jorge Masvidal, and they say it about Justin Gaethje, and they say it about a lot more guys. He's changed. He's now a different level. He's patient now. He's Masvidal 2.0. He's game bred now. He said he wants to go out there and KO guys. But when you look at this record, has he changed? Has Stephens got better, or has he just fought lower level competition? He loses to Max Holloway, beats Renan Barão. What stake does Renan Barão hold in the featherweight division, really? Ask yourself that question. Where does Renan Barão sit in the featherweight division? Unranked, where he fucking belongs. Okay, he's not even in the UFC anymore. Then he loses to Frankie Edgar and Renato Moicano. 2 top-ranked featherweights, good fighters. Then he beats Gilbert Melendez. Should he still be around? By decision. You can't find that KO blow on Melendez. I know Melendez has got a great chin, but Jesus Christ, how am I going to pick you against Calvin Kattar? Then he beats Doo Ho Choi, an up-and-comer. Then he beats Josh Emmett, an up-and-comer. At the time, Josh Emmett has now gone on to beat Michael Johnson. He's established himself back in the division now. He's improving quite well. Or is he in the same situation as Stephens is? Then he loses to Aldo, Zabit, Yair Rodriguez. These are the top 5 guys. I don't know why Aldo's ranked number 9 in the featherweight division. It makes no sense. He should be above Frankie Edgar at least. He should probably be above Zabit, honestly. Aldo should be top 5 in the UFC featherweight division, and I don't know why he's not. But either way, I think Stephens has found his ceiling. I think his ceiling is these real threats towards the title. And I think that Calvin Kattar is that threat at the title. Never been KO'd. Stephens' one chance is to KO him. Don't see that happening. Maybe if Calvin Kattar was coming in here and he's been chinned twice in his career already, maybe I'd pick Jeremy Stephens to maybe land something flush. There is nothing that tells me that Jeremy Stephens is going to have fun trying to land a KO blow on Calvin Kattar. And there's nothing that tells me that he's going to be successful in doing so either way. Sorry, guys. If this was Stephens versus Renato Moicano in a rematch, wouldn't mind his odds. Renato Moicano can be cracked, especially when he cuts back down to featherweight. Renato Moicano even beat Calvin Kattar, you know? And dominated Calvin Kattar, really. I mean, that wasn't much of a fight. Calvin Kattar kind of got exposed. He got shown some weaknesses in his game. Renato Moicano just outranged him. But Renato Moicano, I'd probably pick Stephens against him. I know Stephens lost before by split decision, but right now, with Renato coming off his KO losses to Korean Zombie, if Renato was to come back down to featherweight and fight Stephens next, I might pick Stephens. I might not even mind Stephens' chances against Edson Barboza coming down in weight. Especially now Barboza has been KO'd a few times at lightweight. If he was to make that drastic weight cut and come back down, I wouldn't mind Stephens' chances. There's nothing to tell me that Stephens is going to KO Calvin Kattar. There's no evidence. There's no Calvin Kattar getting KO'd before. You know? There's no Calvin Kattar getting rocked by big shots in fights that he still wins. There's none of that. There's no Calvin Kattar leaving himself exposed in exchanges. If you want to pick Stephens, you can. Just know what you're doing. You're picking a Hail Mary underdog in the odds that Stephens is going to land something crisp. Or you're picking Stephens because you think he can expose Calvin Kattar with the leg kicks. Don't think that's going to happen. Calvin Kattar has since gotten better at defending leg kicks. He's starting to move out the way of them a lot better. He stands a lot less heavy on his lead leg and uses a lot more footwork to get in on guys rather than posturing and standing still. Kattar used to do that quite a bit in his early part of his career. Stand still, put his feet in the ground, lean on his lead leg, jab guys. You can't do that in MMA. He's learned that lesson from Renato Moicano. He's going to bounce back against Jeremy Stephens and earn himself a big finish, because he's the Boston finisher. And that's what he does. And the winner of this bout is in a very good position, because right now, the worst position to be in the featherweight division is in the top 5. Do you know why? Because if Korean Zombie beats Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez beats Zabit Magomed Sharipov, who knows who's getting a title shot? Everyone at the top, when the title holder in Max Holloway is getting himself a rematch, is now on standby. You're all going to fight, guys. No one knows who's going to get a title shot. That's not the case in a lot of other divisions. There's sort of a clear-cut contender in Paulo Costa, in Dominic Reyes if he wins one more. There's always a pathway, but right now in the top 5, they're in a bit of a situation. And these guys in the top 10 and top 15 are in a very good situation, because they could get a big win, stay relevant, and earn themselves someone in that top 5 who isn't going to take a matchup against one of these other guys. Who knows? You know? I feel like there could be a matchup here with a potential... I don't know. I actually don't know what's Josh Emmett doing right now. Has he got a fight booked? Because I know he used to have a fight booked. Arnold Allen at UFC Brawley. But now he doesn't. Maybe Josh Emmett versus someone would be a good idea. No, Josh Emmett's fighting Edson Barboza. Or he was supposed to. But that got rescheduled. Who knows what's going to happen next? Who actually knows? There's a lot of guys in this UFC featherweight division right now. Not a lot of them are coming off wins. Maybe the winner of this one has to take on someone below them. That would be a terrible situation to be in. Or maybe the winner of this one gets Yair Rodriguez. You never know. Maybe Kattar wins, calls out Rodriguez, and they make that fight happen. Maybe Kattar wins, calls out Max Holloway, and for some reason. I have no idea. But if I was to... It's just a weird situation at featherweight right now, isn't it? Fuck me. That is terrible. How many contenders do they have? They're doing Ortega versus Korean Zombie, 2 and 4, and Zabit versus Yair, 3 and 5. How is Zabit number 3? How is Zabit number 3 and Aldo number 11? How is Burgos number 10 and Aldo 11? I just don't understand this division. What the fuck? Who have you beaten, Zabit? Sorry. It's just fucking annoying me. Anyway, yeah. I guess if Kattar wins, he'll just boost himself up the rankings. Maybe we could, if Kattar wins, do a rematch between him and Shane Burgos, because the stoppage was kind of early. You could build some kind of narrative there. Shane Burgos recently re-signed his contract with the UFC. Or the winner of Kattar versus Stephens faces the winner of Emmett versus Edson Barboza. If it's Emmett and Stephens, you have a storyline there, because Emmett's career was almost ended by Stephens. That's his one loss in the UFC of recent... that I can remember recently anyway. I think he has one split decision loss before, or maybe a close split decision win. But that's the only loss I can think of on Josh Emmett's UFC career right now, until especially recently. So maybe they could build that narrative. Emmett versus Stephens. Maybe they could do Emmett versus Kattar. Would also be an amazing fight. Kattar versus Barboza would also be an amazing fight. Stephens versus Barboza. Amazing. Any way you cut this, whoever wins, we've got amazing matchups to make, and I think they should mirror those two together. Kattar and Stephens, the winner will face the winner of Emmett versus Barboza. Done. That seems clean to me. I like it. Very good. Yeah, Kattar's going to finish him in the second round. His boxing's too clean. He's got a lot better at defending the leg kicks. Stephens ain't that good. And if he does win, it'll be by a fluke KO punch out of nowhere, which has never happened to Kattar before in his entire career. Good luck. If you're betting on Stephens, I think Kattar's got this one in the bag. Boston finisher. All the way. And he would have destroyed Zabit as well, but Zabit's too pussy to go 5 rounds, because he cuts too much weight, like a weight bully, like every other Dagestani. Either way, we're not even... Let's just steer away from the Dagestani hatred, and see you later. Like and subscribe, click that button there. Goodbye.